We have just gotten back from a wonderful week in the desert where we tested out our new Agile suspension kit, the new tires, the Hollywood rack, and our e-bikes. I also promised a viewer that I would talk about how much water we use, how often we dump our tanks, and how often we fill the fresh water tank. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I also discovered something about our refrigerator that might answer all of the problems we've had, and a small Truma fix if this kind of situation ever happens to you with your on-demand water heater. That's good. That's good. I'd already filmed this introduction when we were at our last campground earlier today out at the it's called Corn Springs Campground, a BLM campground. But I seem to have more than my share of audio and video problems for my channel. Maybe it's because I just don't know what I'm doing, but today the video was completely frozen and the audio was fine. So go figure. Anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and start it out, and then hopefully the rest of my clips are just fine. Okay, John is going to drain the tanks and then refill the water. And this is our drinking water container, and we will refill it with our filtered water. We are starting with the gray tank 25% full. Okay, our water situation is 75% full. Gray is 50%. That's because we started at 25, and the black is at 25, and now we are off to Arizona. So this is a quick update on the water situation because I was asked about how often we dump and fill our tanks. This is our 5th day on the road. It's let's see, we left on a Tuesday. This is Sunday afternoon, and we started with almost full water tanks. The gray tank was 25% full when we started. We are now at 75% on the gray, 50% on the black, and 50% on the fresh water tank. And now it could be that the suspension package might have affected the sensors of the tanks because we're slightly higher in the rear than the front, but I don't know, should be pretty close. We're going to go ahead and go down and dump our tank because we are 75% on the gray, and I just don't want to take it up to 100. But easily, if we had started with empty tanks completely, we would go probably another day or so. Ready? So now the sensor, we have 50% fresh. We did not fill up with fresh water. We don't need to before we get home. The gray says 0 and the black says 25. Now that could be one of a couple things. It could be that the sensor, because of the lift in the back, is not sensing it properly, or it could be that you can get debris on the sensor so it doesn't measure properly. But anyway, the tank is empty, and we're not going to worry about it.
Travel all around the world to see the meaning
for the suspension package. Yesterday we drove down, it's about 8.5 miles on a dirt road to get to this campground. And I don't think we would have done it in the Pleasure Way had we not had the suspension package put on. We were driving about 25 miles an hour. We ran into another couple in their four-season adventure wagon. It's called a Tiger. We ran into them yesterday, and they said they were only doing 8 to 10 miles an hour. So it has significantly improved the ride of this vehicle, and we will now be much more confident in taking it down a lot more dirt roads. Although it did leave our bikes rather dusty, but that wipes off. And once you get back here, it's really amazing. There were only 3 other vehicles camped here last night at this campground, and lots to see here. So it really expands our ability to get out into more remote areas.
That was a good point.
And yeah, and the lift may have changed the sensors in the tanks, so we don't know whether whether our fuel tank, as well as our water tank and the dump tanks, the gray and black tanks, those sensors may be off just a little bit because the back end now is about 1 inch higher than the front end. As you know, we had new tires put on this thing. We think the tires may have reduced our mileage just a little bit. They have not increased the noise. Actually, the Agile kit, we think, made the vehicle more quiet because it doesn't shake and rattle and roll as much. And we don't notice any additional road noise because of the tires. But we may have lost a mile per gallon. We really won't know until we've had longer trips. So we'll let you know about that as time goes on. This was a perfect trip for e-bikes. Anza Borrego is kind of made for electric bikes and bicycling in general. Lots of cyclists there. So there's lots of dirt roads to ride on. You can ride into town. We even rode in and got ice and drinks, and we didn't have to, take the van with us. So that was really tremendous. Now, John's Rad Mini obviously does much better on the dirt roads than my bike. So how did it work for you?
It was really good. The nice wide tires, the different gearing, the different acceleration modes for pedaling. It's a nice piece of equipment.
So my bike has the much narrower tires, and I had to often get off my bike to go through anything that was sandy, but it was still a lot of fun. And we've also used it out here at this BLM campground where we are, called Corn Springs, and went places we would not have gone otherwise. So if you're, for some trips, this is going to be the perfect mode of transportation, and we will be maybe even getting me a Rad Mini so that I can make sure that I can go where John goes. So John, what did you think about the Hollywood rack? How did it handle with the e-bikes? Was it easy to load?
Very easy to load. I don't even have a major complaint about the rack. It handles the weight beautifully. We can look at it through the rear cameras. We're driving along the road. It's nice and stable. It's rated for the weight. It goes 80 pounds per bike. And so, yeah, it's an excellent piece of equipment.
So here's a tip on the Truma Water Heater. Last night the Truma stopped heating the water. So what you need to do is to come out and open this panel. This is if you have a Truma Water Heater. And then in here is the power button. Turn it off, turn it to the off position for a minute, and then turn it back on again and see if that doesn't fix it. It fixed ours. And then last but not least, we think our refrigerator will be the continuing saga for many years to come. But I think I might have found one of the problems we've had with this refrigerator where we can't get really, for example, we were parked in, when we were parked in Arizona, it was 67 degrees outside and the refrigerator temperature on the coldest setting was 44 degrees. My brother, who is quite mechanical, he came over with a bunch of tools and, he checked make sure that all the power and everything was okay. And I also asked him about how to install the fans I want to install in here, and he showed me how to install that. But in doing that process, we discovered that there's a fan inside the vent out there that's not working. So let me show you that.
We need to open this up for you?
Yeah.
Is this the refrigerator or is it up here?
The fan is down here, so if you'll just push that open. Thanks. So there is a fan. I think you can see it right here. And this fan never spins. This fan is what blows air up and hits the coils. The coils are up here in this vent. And this is the vent where the fans that I'm going to buy are going to go. But that fan is not working. And so that could be affecting our ability to get the cooler temperatures on our refrigerator. Okay, that's all the updates I have this week. I hope I answered some of your questions. And next week I'll have a video of our amazing trip to the California and Arizona deserts.